made it down there. They stopped in Memphis. They were going to stop. I don't know if you remember Bill Lodel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
He's coaching at Ole Miss now.
oh, really?
So they were going to try to stop by and see him, but this is their week off before all their kids report back. So he was out of state there this week while they were coming through. Otherwise, he was going to connect up with them. So
We was getting on the bus one day and I said to Phil, I said, Phil, when you get out and you get the pros, I call you and ask you if you got tickets. Are you gonna say Leonard who? Leonard, I'd never forget you. I'd never forget you.
Would you like ham or turkey?
boy,
Yeah, please. You got one extra? If
he
you
was a
don't,
big boy.
Big
I-
man.
Gee,
He's as big as that, one other guy that, or bigger than that, one other guy that had been pushing so hard from, I don't remember where he was from, but he was about the same size.
yeah. But he could move for his size though too.
Mm-hmm.
He could get down the field and block. He was fun to watch.
I had his sister in class.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, there's a video over there when we did scenario day. And she went in and checked the open building at the fire towers and the guy cut a young list all bloody. She come out there screaming. It's funny hearing him. She was never gonna be a cop, that's for sure.
Wasn't gonna be an athlete either.
No. Were you an instructor over in CJ when they did the, maybe I've asked you this, when they hung the plane off the side of Fine Arts? I know Linda was here, but I remember them doing
I did
that.
the rappelling off of that.
Off of Fine Arts?
Yeah,
Yeah.
off the back of the Fine Arts. The first one we did was over here off the Sin Center, off
Yeah.
the three-story residence, the old house.
Would you do that as part of in-service, just some team building?
We were having it was an all-school picnic or something.
Huh.
And we used football helmets. And it's backing up, and they dared me to do it, so I did it. Mostly it was supposed to be the kids.
You can't back down from there.
Ah, sorry I'm late, I had a phone call, and I've got another here, it is, but it's some kind of foreign number, I'm not calling.
Warranty with one card.
I get a lot of them, I just get erased before I even.
Lock them, they just get another number.
Recognize the number, I don't know the answer.
Well, I know, well, and this one, I mean, well, I was really hacked bad on my, it could have cost me $1,500, but it didn't. But it was like it was from, it was about band, the city band,
Oh, yeah.
Lawrence Herman, I think he's the one they packed in on, but they wanted me to send them a check, and before it was through, and I finally dawned on me, this is not right. When you want me to go out to Walmart and buy whatever they are, taking what they are, they're gift cards, 400 and 200. And I mean, I was saying the Lord, you know, he needed money for the something. And I kept saying, put it on your own account, because I don't do PayPal unless I have to. This was something from something else. And so it wouldn't take it, and I finally said, put it on your own account. I'll even bring the checkbook to some left. Well, he said, I'm a little overextended now. Well, I should have known right there. That's not lower turtle. But anyway, I said, well, I'm not doing anything more than I'll call you tomorrow, or I'll do it tomorrow. So, but see, I hadn't called his wife, but I mean, they knew so much stuff, like he'd been sick. And he had to be out of town, go to a doctor, all this crap. Well, anyway, somebody else on the board last night got one for me. And he hadn't called them either.
Always tell them, give me your phone number and I'll call you back. And they won't do
Well,
that.
this was all, yeah. All
Very well.
A lot of those calls, they say, well, we can't give you our phone number.
right.
So you
This
got mine.
one was all texting back.
Well, the training with our high school faculty on the Madawash tables went well. Had good attendance, and
On the one.
we've got them all on the
They-
cadaver tables.
Oh, I'll tell you what, that's amazing.
Well, that's what I look for. I
Just
thought, where'd you
tremendous.
get yours? Like that. Oh, I can, you
Yeah,
know,
we've had a lot of, well, we've had, not a lot, but we've had a few schools that weren't included in the original grant application for that. Be involved going forward, so I think once we get through this first year there and kind of meet the requirements of the grant there, then we'll open it up and try to bring on some other schools here too, because it's schools that aren't in our service area there too, so it'll be good outreach and connection.
You know, if you had a vet tech program, you could use that in that also.
Mm-hmm.
maybe Colby will ask us to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked with Clint there. I mean, I think there's ways that he can, Glenn, even Cindy, that they can incorporate it into some curriculum and things that they're doing there as well.
Should help with their meat judging too.
My little nursing student that's with me said, all the high schools are gonna get it and we won't. I said, I don't think so. I said, we're paying for it.
Yeah.
We're gonna get it. Are you sure?
Oh, yeah, we'll make it.
And I bet.
Yeah, even Ally, our athletic training, had had her, she's bringing back the athletic training camp this summer, and
Okay.
asked if she could do it there as part of her athletic training camp, which would be a great way to be able to do some hands-on learning there with those students there too.
Absolutely. Jimmy, I'm tired.
I just went home and slept for a couple hours. I felt like a college student waking up going, crap, I'm gonna be late for class.
Wake up panic, what time
Yeah.
is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Got a high skin on Thursday, so hopefully we can
Good.
stuff figured out. I got it all figured out yet.
Get answers on that pretty quickly, though.
Oh no, never had one before.
Can find out.
Yeah. No, it's not till 11:45 and I have to pass after midnight, so.
Yeah.
Told Cedar I'd be up for a midnight snack real quick.
11:45.
Yeah. And I said, and so I'll probably just stay up late and try to sleep in as long as possible, so I don't have as many hours to sit there and grumble
Figure
about my
out.
Sonic and
Hungry.
my breakfast burrito and.
Yeah, you're never hungry when they say you can't, when they tell you you can't.
Oh yeah, if I didn't have that and go, oh, it's noon, I haven't gotten anything to eat yet, I'd be fine. It's just the fact that it's a mental thing.
Then something happens and then delay it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Mid-afternoon.
It's always my luck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's very high level, this will be.
I saw Lindsay down at the band concert that got rained out at the last minute. Oh, and she said how good you had been training her.
Oh, she's a sweetie.
I'd have to go to high school for something. I'd sit in there and just stare at her, and she'd say, I stare at you.
I know I told her when she got this job that I don't have anybody in high school students, but she was always my point person when I needed something
Oh,
for the
yeah.
kids or whatever. She directed me exactly where I needed to go.
How's your attendance been at the band? How's your attendance been at the band concerts?
Not bad.
Yeah.
Particularly the first night because it was a food truck night. And
Oh,
then we
yeah.
kind of stayed later,
Yeah.
but see, we usually advertise a telegram, even though not very many people take a telegram. Had something every night in a concert. They never even returned my call, left messages.
Hmm.
So anyway, the city has kind of advertised it for us on their site. And then the chamber said they would, like next year, because we only have the 4th of July concert left, but the chamber said they would, and they had a big blob on about the 4th of July.
Good.
And they said downtown Visionwood. Not too bad. We thought maybe little kids, at first we talked about giving them flags every night. And then everybody said, well, that's really not necessary because, as long as you stay away from them. And I made a big deal of putting the glob jar out and wrapping my hands around it before I give them to them. Telling them we'll watch them very carefully. And we'll give away a bunch, because the 4th of July, we usually wait. And we only end up giving like 50 of it. We give 200 out at 4th of July.
Yeah.
But we've had different conductors. CJ, that's done, he was supposed to do set Friday nights, but so he said that would have been his second one. Mackenzie did one. Ryan. I forget. He's more of a graduate. He's the band director down at Ulysses. He did one, he was good. Ryan Parton. And then the 4th of July is supposed to be,
What's that?
Okay, as long as you be here.
Well, just in case.
chocolate
Okay,
player,
you want,
teachers over.
any food? I can give you one.
No, I had
I'll
it.
think of it.
So,
Redhead kid,
I signed on here, do I need to go
beard.
no, that's
somewhere
good.
else? What is it?
Do you
My
want them Holcomb in it,
fear is,
band director?
No, because he lives at Ulysses.
No, as long
And
as
he
there's
just
people
thinks
in there.
it's too
Oh,
far
well.
for you. He
Yeah.
did it once.
So the only reason it drops is if it's like, if it's just you guys and there's nobody else inside that
oh, okay.
He doesn't want to move
So.
from Ulysses, because I guess these kids are all involved and everything, but
meeting. I can just hang out.
we have.
So, because it
And we
officially
told
starting
them
at
we
6,
pay
right?
them for every concert they showed up for.
We have,
Pay them
I
extra.
can look at the packet. I don't know if there's like any special speakers, just like open discussion, isn't it?
It's just open discussion, so, I can print you out and show you that.
I
It's
got one on my phone.
basically, I think Carla and Dr. will just go over the, here, I got it for you, I got extra.
Mhm.
Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy?
Not that I'm aware of. Is there, Dr. It'll just be you and Carla presenting?
Correct, yeah,
Yeah.
nobody's joining online
Oh, yeah.
for, to speak.
Should be good though.
How are you, man?
Good, and yourself?
I think I'm okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
One
From my
day at a
perspective, it
time.
is.
Right, one day at a time.
Yeah.
Any day I wake up's a good day.
We'll catch them up.
Wake up without dirt in your face.
And this is all.
That's it. That's just a bonus.
That's from the balance.
Do we have students on campus? Or the football players started? yet?
No, they'll come in the week after the 4th.
Okay.
So they'll be coming in that the following weekend.
I didn't do, I
That's why I
forgot my glass.
Yeah. Last minute prep for getting rooms and what's our lab. Basketball, men's basketball.
I'll be hard.
Getting in summer. So.
How's it going?
Football,
All right.
Football, men's basketball. Another week and we'll start getting busier.
I believe it's ready to start up again.
Yeah, I know.
Will you get your chest done in town, Candace?
Like your earrings, they're pretty wild.
They're light.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It looks heavy as everything.
Well, that's what makes them fun, because they aren't heavy and, but they're big.
It'd be like the Stars and Stripes lady just walk in.
Thanks for putting the participants up there.
Well, that was Jody's doing.
I was just watching.
Quiet.
The lady in blue, you look pretty.
No, thanks. I was like,
Red line.
red, white, and blue. I was like.
That's what I said, the Stars and Stripes lady, just walk in.
Yeah, it's like, digging around my closet, I'm like, what's this dress? Still have the tags on it from last year. Like, okay,
It's like those after holiday sales.
that's where you want it, I guess.
Things to find.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, something new to wear, didn't even. I didn't even look at the table, you know?
Too much.
No, it's just, I'm trying to. Oh, is it rocking? Oh, it is. Just a little adjustment.
Little engineering.
Domestic.
Good.
You got Cheetos?
I know, and if I could have talked somebody else out of theirs, I would have.
Oh,
Well, I upgraded you.
me too.
Yeah.
You wanted more, she wanted more.
Better communication going forward.
Shelly was reading a thing, I saw the Doritos or whatever. Shelly was reading a thing on her, Facebook, or something she was on. About 11 ways that Doritos can give you cancer. And she said, you think maybe 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I was eating too much of them? I mean, everything, the oil in them, the food coloring, I was,
Yeah,
What doesn't give you cancer?
everything you read anymore does, yeah.
So especially about any processed food, you're gonna.
Just ask somebody and they'll tell you.
funny thing
Yeah.
happened today, but nutrients. Just won't be pleased with it, but it's just, it's a mistake anyway, but I met with the attorney today to update my living trust, of my trust, and it was so old, and another guy had looked at it in Cimarron 4 or 5 years ago. And so I thought, well, Mike had time for me, or he made time. He pulled me back a little bit ago and he said, hey Beth, you might want to go out to Nutrien. They took 4 acres. They wanted an ammonium tanks out there for the farmers. And so they rent 4 acres from me. And I get $2,400 a year, and that was a little more than they wanted to pay, but Steve Sterling helped negotiate it for me, and they wanted it on Tennis Road. So he said, I don't remember which one it was, but it was where they changed the agreement to your, to the trust or what, but it says they'll pay you $2,400 a month. I said, no, we get $2,400 a year. He said, I want you to go out to them tomorrow and tell them, we figured it out, and your attorney says they owe you $100,000. But it's just, you know,
That's good.
weird little mistake.
For you.
Make it payable to the attorney.
Huh?
Make it payable to the attorney.
Anyway, it's so funny because when Steve was working it with him, he said, okay, I want you to, you know, there will be additional taxes to her now. And so I want you to pay those too. So I pay the taxes, they reimburse me. Anyway, it's never very much, but. I told him, I knew for a while there, they had some really pretty terrible office help.
Able to get the packet.
And I'm sure the mistakes
Yeah,
are heard.
it's on,
Like I'd get a bill
That
out there
one
and
just-
I wouldn't know anything.
say that
All
again.
of a sudden I was
Like on
like
that
700.
page, it's that over.
So I pay it,
I think.
you know, like for fertilizer, weeds, all that.
Cause I just
Then 2
prefer,
months later,
I was looking at some of the
I have
previous
a, I have
ones.
a credit.
Oh,
because
well.
And
They
I,
double billed.
I
it. I
attached
just
it
do it.
to-
Yeah,
Huh. Bless you.
Bless you.
Excuse me, thank you.
I had just added it into this packet. So
Okay,
if that's not, I can,
it should be good. Let me ask real quick.
Is it warm in here to you?
cause if not, I can swap it.
Tony should be
I have
watching.
not, but if
Tony
you're,
should be watching the.
Yeah, but I
ocean.
don't- I'm always on, so I don't-
Want me to get you a fan?
Farmer, she was looking out
No,
over
it's
the ocean,
fine. We'll make
California.
it. Make
I
it.
know, or they vacation, aren't you jealous right now?
it's not in that right hand. It's
Tell me where it's
not-
at real quick and I can change it. So it doesn't come out at all.
I think that's right.
Is it? Okay.
So it's not under the
No.
tree packet.
Not
Okay.
here, it's down here,
Okay, I can add it up there then.
right there.
Okay, it's just part of it.
Yeah. no,
I'll switch that and I'll put it in that top right. And I'll get that one
Does
swapped
it
out.
need to stay here though? Choose it, what is it?
Um, Yeah, can we keep it in both?
Yeah, you can do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, let's do that if we can.
Alright, yeah, I can do that for you.
Just for the regular.
Oh,
Which it-
oh, I see. Budget retreat. Got a pack going on. I'm sorry, I didn't say where that
Hey, Kansas City swimming pool is pretty nice. When I'm on, I may have to stop in on my way there and on my way home.
Yeah, you can do that. On, right on the way, not very far from Liberty. I don't know, there's a lot of rain up there, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So.
They have this big thing in Excelsior Springs on a weekend. It's water fest or something. They had to cancel it all. That really hurts the city.
Yep. Yes. I'll mention that at the beginning.
Guys, did you see what liberal, it was one of the
High school.
outreach places of the high school? Oh, tore up like everything. Chris Shelley was getting ready to come home Friday night. And as she was coming from her school toward the highway. And lightning hit one of those boxes on the light poles, you know, and she said sparks just went everywhere and it was catching fire down on it.
Oh,
She said, she and the dog went back and sat in the garage till it was safe to come to her and
Yeah, they had straight line winds down there to move the roof off the high school.
and locked the rain
Yeah,
When was that?
Friday night.
Friday night.
Really?
Yeah.
Missed it.
Yeah,
It was another 8.
she said it was so dark. She
No.
said it was so dark, she couldn't even see across the street and it was daylight. So
Well, it's not different except the other one didn't total up. I just had abbreviated and so that's all.
I made some revisions and I didn't show it to you, so I got caught. It's not material.
You know, the day you're having your test, I could come over and eat your lunch.
Tell you how good it is.
Oh, I think I'll be running to get me some lunch as soon as they let me out of there. Had me a Reese's peanut butter cup in my purse for, walking out the door.
Oh, my social on, you think I need it? Dave's hanging out. I don't know, but, you know, sometime when they're out there in the text, they don't leave Dave. Oh,
Well, I'm not planning on it.
okay.
No, Dave in the corner. Dave in the corner.
That's where I'm usually at.
Corner Dave. Corner Dave.
So part of it.
Yeah, life.
That's right.
Yep, it's all, yeah.
Yep. Okay.
That's awesome, you're good.
Like when the plan comes together.
Okay, Hannibal.
It's really good.
Guys, I guess it is 6:01. Is everybody ready?
Oh, shoot, quiet.
Okay, welcome everybody. This is our budget board retreat for the Garden City Community College Board of Trustees, meeting with administration. Blake is going to be about 10 minutes or so late, but he's on his way. Let's go ahead and do a roll call. And Marilyn Douglas,
Beth Tedrow.
David Rupp.
Leonard Hits,
Candace Smith,
Brian Ruda.
Carla Armstrong, Jody Bush.
yay, thank
Oh,
you.
There.
Okay, this is a type of retreat. There's not going to be any action taken at this meeting. So I'm going to turn it all over to President Ruda and our Vice President Carla for the remainder of the meeting. So thanks, guys.
All right. For those that are watching online, this packet is available online under the Board of Trustees documents as well. So you can be able to follow along there as we're referencing documents that the board members have. Each year that we've gone through, just kind of a presentation on where year end is ending and where we project and perceive things. I always think it's good just to be able to have a theme heading into the next fiscal year. So this year we the theme of transforming the future while staying values focused. And specifically on the Buster's values, I think the more that we can reference those Buster values and the more that we can be able to keep them in front of us and kind of driving the decision making of the college, the better informed, and the better off we are. So we've included the Buster's values just to kind of align with being values focused. Thought before we jump into things there too, and I want to give credit where credit's due as far as with Carla putting this packet together and being able to have the information that's presented to you tonight. I won't touch on each of the documents that you have, but there are some specific pieces of information that I think are valuable just to kind of give the picture of where we're at ending this fiscal year, and then also just setting the stage and kind of projecting what we will present to the board for budget going forward in FY22. So the first point of reference I think it's good just to kind of provide a summary as we approach the end of this fiscal year. Just in general, an overall summation. Revenues for the year are ahead of budget projections, and we'll get into that there just a little bit in more detail. But all tuition categories are up in revenue, which is a good indicator of where enrollment's at. The enrollment has stabilized in light of working through a pandemic. Expenses are less than what we budgeted, which is always good. And several things that are attributors to that. There first would be, the CARES and the stimulus funds that have been received, have been utilized to help offset costs such as technology. There's been some technology upgrades and ongoing technology costs that we've put those funds towards, as well as helping to cover health services. We've actually expanded by 2 positions our health services department to help supplement during the pandemic, and then also use some of the stimulus funds there to offset police and safety positions that were allowable through stimulus funds. The other attribute that I would say overall is really a global college awareness, mindfulness of expenses as we've gone through this past year. I think the employees in general overall have been very cognizant about spending during this past year, because it's been a very tight fiscal year. And so I think a lot of that awareness and mindfulness has definitely helped as we've taken a look at where we're at there with expenses. Just a couple of other highlights that I want to just frame as we've gone through this past year. Last year's budget, we presented a budget that had 11 positions that were going to be removed, either unfilled positions or ones that we were going to put a freeze on and not fill. Throughout this past year, we've been in a position to be able to add back 8 of those positions that were originally not budgeted for this year. So through a lot of the work that we've done there, just to be able to put us in a situation where we can be able to move some of these positions back. You can really put the focus on people and bring them to the supplementary level of operations. Been able to bring those 8 positions back. I think the other piece of it there that sometimes is lost, and this is a very relevant point there to have as well, is in addition to the budget that we have set at the college this past year. Again, I want to give credit to Carla and business office staff, financial aid staff as well. But this past year, in addition to what we have as far as an operating budget, we have also had over $10 million in local, state, and federal grant dollars that we have been awarded and been processing in addition to our general fund and capital outlay budgets there as well. So, this $10 million has came from a variety of sources, but has been able to help again with some of the technology upgrades, access controls, bringing on some positions to help with operations, helping to offset revenue losses, and then also been able to provide access to some of our departments and our programs as far as equipment, nursing, welding, industrial machine mechanic. So again, these are a direct attributor to things that we're doing to be able to help with outreach of teaching and learning, but also being able to expand how it is that we improve the college through grants there as well. So overall, before we get into some of the budget packets there, the college has had a very good business year. Looking forward, I just want to kind of walk you through some of the projections of where we will be ending, and then also just some projections of where it is that we will see FY22 land as far as budget goes as well. So the first point of reference there in your packet that I'll direct your attention to is on page 4 as far as our debt schedule. So this is the debt indebtedness of the college as of June 30, 2021. Obviously, with some of the decisions the board has taken there as far as refinancing of the suites. The college has positioned itself very positively with improving and being able to restructure debt payments for cost savings to the college while still paying the debt service off at the same time frame. So as you can see, you know, we have field payments that will be paid off in 2023, and then the housing of the suites, and then the new CUP, which will close on June 30th. So that this gives you an overview of where we're at there as far as indebtedness. On the next page, page 5 of your packets, I want to walk you through projections as far as the general fund cash reserves. So the board policy states that the president shall not fail to maintain a cash reserve of 20%. However, we've been having conversations for going on nearly 2 years now as far as being able to better position the college and be able to put ourselves in a situation where if we can have the ability to grow reserves, we want to be able to look at that. Through those discussions and working collectively to improve our reserve position, administration has worked to position the college and present a recommendation that we will bring forward, that we're going to present to you tonight, to where we would look at a 25% reserve carryover going into this next year. So as you can see on page 5, the board carryover requirement as far as where we would be currently would be 3.5 to shy of 3.6 million. What we are recommending is that we do a 25% carryover reserves, which would be just shy of 4.5 million. We feel like this is a stance that puts the college in a very good financial position, strengthens the college overall as an organization, and reflects well upon being able to foresee into the future things that we may not be able to predict and anticipate, such as future pandemics that we just go through. So,
Don't say that.
yeah, I'm not going.
Something.
Yeah. Additionally, the board policy also states that the president shall not fail to maintain capital improvement reserves of at least $250,000. As you can see on page 5, our ending balance as of June 30 will be $947,900. So we have been able to take care of a lot of deferred maintenance needs. We've been able to address a lot of improvements in deferred maintenance throughout this past year, but still be able to carry forward a strong balance on the capital outlay that meets the board policy and stance on this as well. The other piece that I would reflect and just draw attention to there as well is, you know, last year the board had taken action in a very wise way to be able to maintain reserves that will reflect being able to account for non-covered claims should they come up. So again, the reason why we are recommending that 25% threshold on reserves is to be able to put the college in a better position overall and cover what the board policy states on that board. So overall, a very good year and a good way to position the college as we go forward as well. As you go forward, the next 2 pages just give you a summary of where the college is at there in respect to the various federal and state grants. I'm not going to really spend a whole lot of time to reflect on those, but want to be able to provide the board with a position and an understanding of the funds that are coming through on the state and federal level, as well as just the different programs that we have here that bring in roughly 6.1 million of additional funds to offset college operations as well. Starting on page 8, for the last several years, we've done a snapshot for the board as far as enrollment projections. And we've been able to add to this here in the last couple of years, just to show both in our service area as well as in local Southwest Kansas high schools where we have focused efforts on recruitment, to be able to provide a snapshot of where we are at with the number of high school graduates that each of those high schools have in relationship to the number of students that are enrolling at Garden City on any given year. So we have a 5-year trend pattern for both service area high school graduates as well as our Southwest Kansas high school graduates. The numbers that are reflected for fall of 2021 are as of last Friday. So it's not a true picture, but it's a picture as far as a point of reference to date of where each of those high schools are at there on enrollment. I will say that, as a college, we've made an institutional goal for 2% growth in enrollment for this fall. So we are working, we have a strategic enrollment committee that is working towards recruitment and retention initiatives to help in meeting those goals. The other aspects that I would say, just to kind of give you a point of reference as far as where we are at overall in relationship to enrollment, as of this morning, to use last fall as a point is really an anomaly. So we went back to fall of 19 just to be able to capture where we were at this fall compared to 2 years ago. And as of this morning, we were up 5% on headcount and credit hours both. So we feel like we were tracking very well with where we were at in comparison to the same point, same date 2 years ago. The next few pages are just some analogies from the state level, from the Board of Regents, that just reflect overall where enrollment has been. Gives you a 10-year picture of both headcount and full-time equivalency. So it gives you a chance to be able to see where the college is tracked there in comparison over a 10-year time frame. So again, enrollment is something that we track and we put focus on a daily basis. We put some institutional commitment towards that as far as committee structures and being able to address things. Have several different new technologies, softwares that we're utilizing to be able to capture students much more effectively through social media and text messaging that we are going to be implementing over this summer and into next fall there as well. So several things that we are doing to be able to stay in touch with students where the students are at and be able to have a better mechanism for tracking and communicating with students as we go forward. Yes.
So a couple things that I see with this. First of all, head count, does that mean anybody that's enrolled in an online program? Or is it just bodies on campus?
Page 10 is the count of the community college system
Right,
overall in campus.
right.
So that's.
But it is anybody that's enrolled in any.
So it's a person enrolled in any,
Anything.
yeah, okay.
Dual
And
credit
then
online.
FTE is somebody that's taking 12 credits for
Correct.
12
12.
credits.
Mhm.
And then they take the part-time and multiply by 3.
Okay, oh, they do. Okay, so 3 part-timers equal 1 full-timer.
Mhm.
Okay. And so, I mean, there's quite a downward trend for community colleges. Is that the same for universities too? Do you guys know?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, this comes right off of the KBOR website. Yeah, we can pull that up and send it to you, the
I
regions.
was just curious. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
good. Well, I think a lot of the trend is, the number of high school graduates has continued to decrease. So, whatever that's attributed to, not as many people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be kind of interesting to know, but I'm sure it's tough to track down. So,
Okay, thank you.
Other questions on any of those slides? Okay. All right, so this leads us into page 12, an overview and kind of setting the stage for FY22 budget. And just some things and some points of consideration as we've gone into this there, specifically on the revenue side. We are, I mentioned as a college, we are looking, and we've set a goal institutionally of a 2% increase in credit hours. However, for the sake of budgeting, being conservative, we are budgeting on a flat enrollment. However, you will see that there's an increase in revenue because tuition is increased by $1 a credit hour. So we've accounted for an increase in revenue with the $1 a credit hour increase, but budgeting on a flat enrollment going into this next year as well. County support, preliminary valuation from the county shows minimal increase in valuation. Mill rate and taxes that are levied will hold level. But we'll discuss a little bit more, and I want to be able to get into this a little bit more detail as far as the implications of Senate Bill 13 and how Senate Bill 13 will play into our county valuation and what we have for discussion going forward. So for the purposes of budgeting, we're planning on county support staying flat. We're not projecting any change as far as mill increases or valuation changes that would impact that. State level on the state budget. State budget is level funded for this next year. Projecting level funding on our Excel and CTE. The one difference that will be noted there in this chart, the difference from FY21 and FY22, is that the state has made a commitment of what's called maintenance of effort funds that each of the 19 community colleges will receive, and this is in response to from the federal government in order for the monies that the state has received from stimulus dollars to be used. There was an understanding that there would be a maintenance of effort on the state dollars where there would not be a decrease in the state funding. So in order to meet that obligation to where the state is not decreasing the level of dollars going to higher education, there is a maintenance of effort. And our equivalent of that from the maintenance of effort standpoint will be an additional $158,000 for this next year. So that is just one-time, one-year monies, not something that will be budgeted ongoing, but is reflected in this next year's budget as far as additional revenues that will be at the state level. So overall, as far as revenue, we are seeing a difference in an increase of revenues of $198,000 from what we're projecting FY22 versus the FY21 budgets. Expenses on salary and benefits would include a recommendation that will be brought forward to the board here in July for consideration of a 3.5% cost of living increase for all employees. We've also budgeted in the 8 positions that we have restored that were frozen from last year's budget, as well as an increase to adjunct pay. We have not increased adjunct pay rate in over 15 years. So this would be something that has been a priority on our planning process for the last 3 years, and something that will help us be able to attract and retain quality adjuncts going forward. And then finally, the other aspect there that would have implications on salary and benefit would be an increase to faculty overload that is part of the negotiated agreement that the board will review and consider for approval in July. So With those changes on salary and benefits, and what's been outlined on that end, we'd be looking at a difference of 1.7 million in expenses versus last year's budget. And then operational accounts, we are working to be able to, as part of last year's budget reductions, we did have operational reductions, which would be like your staff development, travel. We had reductions of 10% across the board on operational accounts, and we would be looking at a partial restore of operational budgets, which would account for an additional 400,000, as well as the new debt service that we're taking into account there for the COP. So all told, what we're proposing and presenting will be a flat budget on revenues with expenses to account for raises and items that we have taken through the negotiated agreement for reconsideration in the July board meeting. So again, the path forward, in years past, we brought forward recommendations that have various options for consideration as far as what we would be presenting to the board for consideration on everything from mill considerations, budget reductions. This year, our path forward is to hold flat on enrollment, maintain the level ad valorem, have level state funding, and through compliance with what we will talk through on Senate Bill 13, some of the timelines and the implications that we have on that end, believe that we will be able to take care of people through how we've adjusted this past year to increases in enrollment and being able to account for cost of living allowances that directly impact and help with retention and recruitment of employees as well. Anything else to add on that? Questions on any of that? Okay. All right, so just kind of moving forward, just a couple of next few pages really are just more for your merit and help with understanding just definitions of ad valorem taxes, mill rates, how mill rates are figured. Really just more for walking around knowledge and understanding the definitions of how mill rates are determined from the county valuation. So the next piece of this there then that I really want to spend some time talking through is with what we've mentioned on implications from Senate Bill 13. So Senate Bill 13, and we talked last month at the meeting, the board meeting there about the revenue neutral rate and the intent of Senate Bill 13 to be able to maintain a revenue neutral rate among taxing entities. Senate Bill 13 does change and put some differences into the timeline from what we've come to know as far as budget planning. So in the past, in July, we would be presenting you with a working budget and a recommendation on the working budget for you to adopt, and then we would post and approve at the August board meeting. Senate Bill 13 has presented language that will actually change the timeline and the processes for taxing entities. So no longer will July be when we're presenting the working budget. It will now be at your September board meeting. So we will be 2 months into our fiscal year before you're presented with what our working budget is. So we'll kind of go through that, and Carla, stop me there if there's things on your end there as far as clarification. But really the intent of Senate Bill 13 again is to be able to maintain revenue neutral rates there to where there's not changes that are occurring within tax rates at the local level. However, some of the disparity is that Senate Bill 13 is focused specifically on the mill rate, not on the dollars levied. And taxing entities focus on what the dollars levied are going to be. So some of the changes that will come from this there then is now as of June 15th, the county clerk presents each of the taxing entities with what the estimated valuation for the county is going to be. And we have received the estimated valuation from the county, which I mentioned was a slight increase in overall valuation from last year. So last year it was 499 million for Finney County. This year it was 502 million. So a slight increases on the estimated. The estimated is really what we're using in order to make our determination on mill rate and set the mill rate, because we don't actually receive the actual valuation until later on in the year, usually around November. So the estimated is what we're basing it on. With the way the Senate Bill 13 is written, because we're basing this on an estimated valuation, in order for us to be able to adjust our mill rate later on in the year when we receive our actual valuation, then we have to, as a board and as a taxing entity, give notification to the county clerk by July 15th, July 20th. July 20th. So page 19 will kind of walk you through the timelines of SB1, SB 13. So by July 20th, we would have to notify the county clerk of our intent to levy above the revenue neutral rate. So what that means is if we do not indicate our intent to levy above the revenue neutral rate, if actual valuations were to come in lower than last year's valuation, then our mill rate would be adjusted and we'd actually be levying fewer dollars, because that revenue neutral rate is going to be adjusted based upon what the actual valuation is. If we provide intent and give notice of intent to the county clerk by July 20th, that our intent is to go above the revenue neutral rate, even by $1, then that allows us to be able to adjust that rate once we have our actual valuation set and determined to us later on this year. So our recommendation is, and we've had conversations with each of the other taxing entities, several of the other presidents, community colleges there, that our intent is that we need to provide notice to the county clerk by July 20th that we will exceed the revenue neutral rate, which provides us latitude to make determinations on whether we need to adjust once we have the actual valuation. So there will be no action at the July meeting as far as budget goes, other than to provide the intent to levy above the revenue neutral rate.
I'm just trying to understand this, if you don't mind me asking.
No, not at all. Not at all.
What scenario would we ever not notify them of intent?
Well, and is it okay if I speak?
Please.
So we currently, it's a very good point. We do notify the public and the clerk, or, but this is a whole transparency effort, because every year, we have to publish in the paper, and we have a hearing, et cetera. So what happens, not this year, but years forward, is that if you notify the clerk that your intent to be above the revenue neutral rate, they have to send a mailing out to every taxpayer. Is it every taxpayer, every registered, every taxpayer? And so everybody's gonna get a mailing that says everybody's going to, what they're doing. So I think some of us, think that it has a little bit to do with people don't get newspapers so much anymore and that type of thing, and so maybe that's the effort. We're not doing anything different, other than, it's just an extra step of notification.
What benefit would it be to Garden City Community College? What scenario would have to exist that we would say, no, we're not gonna notify of intent this year? I mean, I'm trying to understand what set of circumstances that we wouldn't do
Well, some,
this.
I think some.
Does that exist?
Right.
Right.
I think that some, it kind of just depends on your political climate. I think some communities are more sensitive to any increases in any, and so they don't want to deal with that or whatever. I don't know. It's kind of, it's just a lot of paper pushing that,
Okay.
So the Senate bill really has
and
no, I mean, it's
Well,
it's
and
not
it-
really just, I mean, it's not changing
Well,
anything other than it's
right.
the
I mean, like we all say, people, but I think people, what do you get in the mail? What do people get in the mail? Junk mail. So it's like, you're gonna get a postcard that's gonna have all this stuff on it, you don't understand, and I don't know. But when this bill started, the frustrating thing for us is that when it started, it was all about the assessed monies. So that's how it should be. So because your mill rate is just a formula, it's determined based on your valuation, and we're dealing with millions of dollars on estimates, and and everybody, we have a process, and that's part of the process, but if it was on monies, then you're gonna get the monies regardless of what your valuation is, and so, but how legislation happens, it gets revised, and then we ended up with mill rates instead of valuations. So I was kind of excited because it was like, well, we're not gonna levy any more dollars, so we don't have to do the hearing. Then when you go, so then the municipal department of the state does these workshops talking about this, and they recommend to everyone that you do the hearing to protect yourself, not to get in a situation where you actually get less dollars because your valuation comes in lower. So, but, yeah,
Yeah, the intent and the language are two different things.
I was gonna ask you to help me understand the revenue neutral rate. Is that a new term?
yes,
Yeah.
it is a new term.
And
Mhm.
so it's,
And
go ahead.
And so on our documents, so it's determined based on some calculation that they do.
Page 16.
And, and so like last year, our rate came out at 24.597,656. But our revenue neutral rate is 24.394. So,
Because valuation went up, mill rate came down. It's the estimate,
so.
which means nothing unless we don't give notice for exceeding revenue neutral rate, and if valuation does come in at the 502 that's estimated, our mill rate decreases and we bring in a few dollars.
So was legislation thinking that somehow people were not going to? I don't understand, I mean, there again, it's the process of politics, it's like, well, why even have a bill? I understand they try to keep more transparency, but a bill that basically everybody bypasses, serves no purpose.
Right.
I mean, and that in my I mean, you know, if there's I'm not saying a loophole, but I just don't, I guess I don't, that's part of the problem, I guess.
Yeah, I think I mean, as Carla had indicated, I mean, really the majority of the merit behind this area is transparency. Fewer and fewer local newspapers. So when taxing entities are proposing increases in mill, right now by state statute, they must be able to provide that notice in the local newspaper. Fewer people are receiving local newspapers, fewer people are informed, fewer people are finding out about what taxing entities are proposing. So the language within this is, well, now you're going to receive a postcard in the mail, so we can keep you informed.
The state's gonna pay for it for 2 years, and then after that, all the taxing entities have to divide the cost.
Or we could just modernize and use something a little more modern than newspaper or postcards, but, yeah, okay. Sidebar.
Yeah.
Just a politician's way of complicating.
Yeah,
They
I don't
understand
see how junk mail,
So in the end,
postcards are
it's just gonna
easier.
cost the taxpayers more money by,
Exactly, and a lot,
Yes.
and, you know, we're fortunate that we have a sophisticated county operation, but there's a lot of communities in Kansas that, you know, they just don't have the staff and the support to, you know, and, I mean, every taxing district, anybody that levies taxes,
Are you trying to support the post office now, or what's it?
and I don't know. Might be.
Okay.
Well, the other side of that, there too, is your governing boards are not being presented with the working budget until 2 months into your fiscal year. So, I mean, there's some loopholes and some things that need to be worked through, you know, some trader bills hopefully to help address some of that. So, you know, July will change as far as not having a working budget. August will change as far as not adopting budget. We're having a hearing. Everything pushes until September. So at our September board meeting is when we will actually have a hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate. Close that hearing and then have our hearing for the working budget at the September board meeting as well. So we will have 2 hearings in September to be able to meet and comply with the intent of Senate Bill 13.
There is a legislative summary that on Senate Bill 13, I'll send it to Jody.
Oh, okay, yeah,
I mean, it's,
good.
the one thing that it does do that really doesn't affect us is this, it repeals the tax lid for cities and counties. And we were, so and it repeals so last year, and I can't remember when this was adopted, but if we assess more dollars than the CPI would naturally increase, we had to make notice of that too. So that replaces that. But again, it was all, I mean, you just put it in your publication. Seems like there would be better things to do. You need to run for state government, Shannon.
Yeah, sit here and eat my cookie.
That feels good.
The way this formula is created, I don't think there's any winning number for it, because it's based on your last year's
That's right.
revenue divided by what your current year valuation is, and you're always gonna be
You're gonna get a raise.
backwards,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm disappointed in our legislators for,
You're kidding.
Right.
for, I mean, where did they create that? I don't get it.
I don't know. Yeah,
Well,
it just, it convolutes and it moves things down the road there.
Yeah.
You know,
Makes it hard to do business.
It does.
I mean, and it's, for counties and cities, they're on a calendar year. So the timing isn't as critical for schools. I mean, you're basically operating a quarter of the year before you even have a budget.
Makes it very clear, education is not the priority they give us lip service to.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, just making sure I'm following along.
But yeah, we'll forward out, what Carla has there as far as just a legislative summary there. That probably come some other light reading.
I didn't even think about including that. Send it out.
Other questions though on SB 13?
Third month.
Yeah,
So between August 20th and September 20th, we'll have one public announcement.
so we will, so between August 20th and September 20th is when we will actually post our notice in the newspaper on our website. That will hold the hearing at the September board meeting.
And then at the September board meeting, we'll hold 2 hearings.
One for the public.
One for the revenue neutral rate to exceed that, and then one to adopt the budget. Right.
Correct.
Gotcha.
It isn't that we don't know what we're doing, it's just we double check.
Navigating uncharted waters.
Like I need the dates written down.
Yeah, so it'll be, again, just a little bit different as far as on the budget timelines that we've been accustomed to. But page 19 just provides a summary and a kind of a walking timeline of what complying with SB 13 entails.
You and Carla understand it.
As well as can be.
That's one way of putting it off.
I've read it enough to understand it there. I mean,
All
it's,
right.
yeah, that's with anything. I mean, you have to go through it and you have to,
How long has
Work
it
through the
taken you to
process.
get to that point?
well, I've read the bill 3 separate times. I'm not really sure I understood it after reading the bill, but several workshops and several conversations there just as far as what the working knowledge needs to be there for implementing. I mean, I know the CFOs have had several budget workshops. We've talked to it there on our weekly president's calls quite a bit there as well, so.
Well, the reality of this is, I understand it vaguely, but I'm putting my trust in the 2 of you.
We'll try to.
That's-
We understand the means, we understand the ends, we trust them with the means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's why we spent the time reading the bill 3 times, not just once, so we understand
I just stay away.
it.
Has this been communicated to the faculty? I mean, I know in the past, that, when's the budget coming out? When's the budget coming? Working budget. This is in August and stuff, and they're
Correct, yeah, no, I have not sent anything in the weekly memos there as far as SB 13. I mean, we've had several communications there within the weekly memos as far as where we're projecting budgets and just kind of talking through them in generality sense. Haven't got into the details on SB 13.
just a time heads up.
Yeah.
Timetables changed.
I mean, it's really not, and yes, I mean, we'll definitely kind of talk through and give an overview. It's really not going to change any aspect as far as operational budgets are still going to be in place July 1. You know, they will have a working budget so they can still spend, which isn't going to be any different than what we've had in the years past. So, you know, from an internal perspective and a departmental perspective, nothing really changes. It's just when the budget's going to be officially adopted and approved, the changes. Yeah. But no, I mean, that clarification will go out there and include the memo.
July, August, and September are gonna be operational, just like y'all are, with guidelines for
And those are the months that Carl was taking vacation.
Well, I used to be excited August 25th, and now I got pushed back to October 1. But I am gonna have a grandbaby in the middle of that, so.
We're gonna have a joyful moment.
I know.
Right? Okay. Sounds good. I think you guys got it. Got it.
I have all kinds of confidence in the two of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we'll work through it, but wanted to, I mean, I know it's hitting you with changes there, but, you know, I think the timeline at least kind of walks you through what it is that's needed to know from your standpoint on what the changes are going to be. So really then just going forward here then in the budget document, just for, you know, for your purposes through our annual planning process, starting on page 21, just provided you with the summary of what has came forward from the annual planning process, just so you can see by department what it is that's came through. The far right column that has 1s, 2s, and 3s is where the College Planning Council prioritized each of these items. So the items that are 1 are the highest priorities, 2 are the next level, and 3 are the lower priorities. Any priorities that are listed on here that do not have a ranking in that far right column are ones that we have built in and incorporated into this next year's budget. So we've already adopted and accepted that those are priorities that we need to carry forward, such as the adjunct pay changes, some other part-time positions. So anything that does not have a ranking in the far right column, the ones that we've built in the FY22 budget.
What's the number on the view on page 21? You got like, athletic department, you have $7,000 increase or whatnot, but there's a $3,000.
That's the overall total.
For the 21.
Okay, gotcha.
But just wanted to be able to provide you some context of what's came through the planning and how it is that the departmental planning process filters into college planning and budget planning overall as well. Questions on process or any of the?
Who are the members of the committee?
Carla chairs it.
So, there's representatives across all, I'll just tell you all the departments. Yeah, faculty, or technical faculty, transfer faculty,
Student services.
Students.
services,
yeah,
athletics.
so just kind of broad representation.
Okay.
Oops.
10-member committee.
Yeah, it's identified out in our policy. I have a folder.
It's okay. That's good.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's broad distribution as far as involvement on that committee.
Okay.
So just for an understanding then, as far as how these priorities come from. So starting early in the spring semester, we have our departments start a planning process. So counseling department, your criminal justice departments, any of those lower level departments all start with prioritizing what it is that their requests, their needs for this next year are. They compile those, and then about 3 weeks later, that information files up to the division level, which is your instructional services, student services, admin services, and athletics. So there's 4 divisions that everything department-wise flows into. Those divisions prioritize what it is that's important as far as projects, personnel, requests that are coming from the division level. And then those 4 division level requests come to the College Planning Council for review and prioritization. So it's about all told, about a 2.5 month project, just to be able to work through the planning process that starts at the very ground level all the way up to college level.
I wanted to ask, now you talked about the 8 positions being added back in.
Mhm.
Are those these HR positions that we're seeing listed in here, or are these, because I'm seeing like a scholarship coordinator, automotive instructor, John Deere instructor, part-time instructor? I mean, are these that 8, or are these in addition to that 8?
Those are additional.
Okay, so this doesn't list out those individual 8 positions coming back in, those are separate from this list. Okay,
Yeah, so those 8 positions, I mean, just to give you some ideas, so last year we had a retirement in social science. We did not replace that position at the time. Had a retirement in our physical education, and retirement in math and science. Throughout the years, we've been tracking and seeing, revenue wise there, that we were in a position to start bringing back some of these positions. We started with faculty positions, bringing back the faculty positions, the ones that impact enrollment and teaching and learning. So we brought back 3 faculty positions, and then the remaining were staff custodial positions that we just left unfilled last year in the wake of the pandemic.
okay, I just didn't know whether this was those 8 or they're
Yeah,
separate
this is,
from.
this is actually like new
Okay,
requests.
okay. That's what I thought, but I'll ask questions,
No,
that
it's
whole
good.
assumption thing.
Yeah, no,
We're
that's-
glad you asked questions.
Yeah, the automotive part-time instructors we're bringing on there because we've added actually 3 new sections of courses by bringing on dual credit automotive courses this next year. John Deere is actually increasing the number of students they're bringing in, so we're bringing on a part-time adjunct instructor to help on that end. So those are all really in respect to enrollment trends that we're seeing and being able to address teaching loads for enrollment increases. Good question. Other questions or thoughts on that at all? Okay, and then again, just the last several pages are just to be able to give you some contextual summary of where mill rates have been historically. So it gives you all the way back to 2000 up through this year as far as where mill rates, valuation have been, just so you can see historical trends, and then just mapping that out on page 25. It just kind of maps out a linear graph of where valuation and mill rates have been as well. And then the final pages in the document just outline tuition and fees, reflective of, this was shared back in February when the board approved the changes to tuition and fee structure for this next year. But again, just a reference point there as far as where Garden City Community College is at in relationship to the other 19 colleges on page 27 for our in-state resident rate at $115 credit hour rate. And then the final pages are just summaries of each of the community colleges of where revenues and expenses have been for the past 6 years, as well as mill rates by each of the institutions as well, just for an overall perspective of where Garden City is at in relationship to our sister institutions. Really doesn't have any impact or bearing on our overall budget as far as those, but I feel like it's important to be able to let you see a summary of where Garden City is at in relationship to the other Kansas community colleges. And then the final page is just a snapshot of overall, it's just kind of more for walking around, all those questions you may ever be asked as far as what the total acreage of the campus is and the total square footage of buildings. So you can see that total acreage is just shy of 164 acres and total square foot of buildings, 510,000. So if ever asked, you have that walking around.
We'll have a new building next year.
I have a new building. So again, just, I think the purpose and really the benefit of tonight there is just to outline where it is that we will be ending FY21 this year, or this week, and where we project and where we see FY22, just to be able to give you a picture and a glimpse of how things are going to track forward in respect to budgets. But again, overall, it's been a very good business year for Garden City. We're in a very good financial situation to be able to bring forward the reserves in the manner that we are, and be able to take care of people, take care of employees, cost of living increases that we will bring forward to board consideration here in July.
I always was a little concerned of all what we had been going through and having to cut back in places that we would be able to take care of our people when it came time to it. I'm glad to see that we are able to do that. That's a good way to lose good people, is if you can't take care of them.
Correct. Yeah, and I think, Carla and I were actually having this conversation, earlier today that, at any point, people are going to win as far as how it is that we can, if we're going to be able to take care of people versus making some adjustments to operations. So, in order to be able to account for a cost of living increase, that changed some of what it is that we may have been able to do on restoring more of the operational budgets that we cut from last year. But at the end of the day, administratively, we feel like it's our priority to try to take care of people, and then we can address operational budgets, in a secondary manner. But happy to answer any questions that you have, but I'm going to be able to provide that summary and just kind of an overview of FY21 ending and FY22 start.
Any other questions?
Just good information, thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Carla for pulling the all-nighters to get the numbers fixed.
Well, we thought that was you. No, I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
no.
We never doubted who it was.
That's why Carla's taking the next 3 months off.
We all have seasons in our jobs. So. The little twerks or little things that they provide us, just keep it interesting. Wouldn't want it to be the same every year.
Yeah, they don't want to. But if there are any questions that come up, don't hesitate. And then again, just as we reflected, we'll be bringing forward the negotiated agreement in July for review and approval, as well as consideration for cost of living. July.
So we'll have those two items in July, but it will be the September meeting before we do anything else with the budget.
So we need to remember all of this.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
Memorize it.
no problem.
Yeah, don't forget where you left that book. at.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Take it with you and make sure you study it.
I'll sleep on it,
Yeah.
osmosis, it will.
Good way to put you to sleep.
Well, I think we're pretty ready to close. Does anybody else have any final comments? Again, I echo what Beth said and Leonard and everybody else, that we really appreciate you guys' work and diligence with this. I'm sure you're even honing it yet today. So, we appreciate it.
Marilyn, I would like to say, I really do put a lot of confidence in these two people. It's a job that is oftentimes beyond my realm of everything that goes into it. And I just have a lot of confidence in the people we have here.
I think you say something very accurately, Leonard. None of us are CFOs. None of us are accountants. And so for them to crunch the numbers and then regurgitate it so we understand it, so that we can answer to our friends and
Our
constituents out there, if they ask about anything, really is helpful. So you're right, they do a good job, and it's nice to be able to trust them. And,
Pat on the back once in a while.
yeah, I totally agree. Thank you. Okay.
Team effort.
Yeah, definitely. All right, hearing no other comments, I'm gonna declare our budget retreat closed. Thank you for attending, appreciate it, and have a good evening.
See you in a couple of weeks.
All right.
And the meeting's gonna be over in, how the race is going, Blake?
Right, yeah, our